Solomon Freilich. And Michael Abrams on deck.
Good afternoon. My name is Solomon Freilich. I'm a 28-year-old climate change activist, nature photographer, and member of Sunrise Movement Cleveland. I'm speaking today on behalf of Sunrise Movement Cleveland. Sunrise Movement Cleveland is part of the Sunrise Movement, a youth-led movement to stop climate change and create millions of good-paying jobs in the process. The recently released Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change report tells governments that the only way to avoid the worst-case scenario for global heating is by ending fossil fuel extraction, dramatically reducing methane emissions, quadrupling solar and wind capacity, and tripling renewable energy investments, all by 2030. More than 6 in 10 Ohio voters support climate action. More than 6 in 10 Ohio voters believe expanding renewable energy should be Ohio's #1 energy priority. However, in 2019, the Ohio legislature passed HB 6, making Ohio a leader among governments that are supercharging the climate crisis instead of ending it. Quote, on July 21st, 2020, the FBI unveiled charges against the former Speaker of the Ohio House, Larry Householder, and 4 political operatives for racketeering and bribery related to the passage of HB 6 and the effort to block citizens' access to the ballot, ensuring a referendum to repeal HB 6 would fail. 133rd, end quote, 133rd Ohio General Assembly Scorecard, Ohio Environmental Council Action Fund, 2021. Quote, according to federal prosecutors, the scandal was likely the largest bribery, money laundering scheme ever perpetrated against the people of the state of Ohio, end quote. A majority of Ohio voters oppose HB 6. We know that every political decision not only determines the conditions of our day-to-day reality, but whether we will have a livable future on a planet that's already in peril. For too long, Ohio's elected leaders have stolen our power to choose who best represents us. We do not have a democracy without it. The Republican Party's leaders have gerrymandered their way out of having to prove themselves capable to voters. They know they only have to prove themselves capable of taking extreme positions like denying climate change, lest they lose elections to challengers from their own party. There is proof that in the last 39 years, Ohio has been gerrymandered. There are statistical techniques for demonstrating the probability that a district map was drawn to gerrymander. Some of the techniques that test for unequal opportunity that are now applied to gerrymandering were invented in the 19th and early 20th centuries, such as mean minus median in 1895 and t-test in 1908. It seems that what scientists and engineers accomplished in the second half of the 19th century and first 2 decades of the 20th century, like experimentally demonstrating the greenhouse effect in 1859, suggesting a link between carbon dioxide levels and temperature in 1896, and suggesting that burning coal will cause the atmosphere to heat up in 1912, could benefit us all if only we could see it. In Ohio in 2018, the median Democratic vote share was 41.7%. This is a quote, sorry. Quote, in Ohio in 2018, the median Democratic vote share was 41.7%, the average Democratic vote share was 47.7%, and the difference was 6.0%. The chance that this difference would have arisen by nonpartisan processes alone is 1 in 212,105. End quote, Princeton Gerrymandering Project. The Ohio Constitution states, General Assembly districts shall be compact. I looked at the current General Assembly district maps, and it seemed to me that at least 6 House districts and 6 Senate districts were not particularly compact. There are statistical methods for determining compactness, and these can be applied to individual districts. I obtained calculations using these methods for every current district of the Ohio General Assembly from geospatial software company Azavia. One method is called Polsby-Popper, which calculates the ratio of the area of the district to the area of a circle whose circumference is equal to the perimeter of the district. A value of 0 is the least compact, whereas 1 is the most. Confirming my hunch, House Districts 78, 72, 57, 81, and 91 have Polsby-Popper values of 0.16, 0.17, 0.2, 0.2, 0.29, and 0.33 respectively. For comparison, the 10 most compact Ohio House district, based on this measure, all have values exceeding 0.48, and all Ohio House districts range from 0.07 to 0.78. Also confirming my hunch, Senate districts 2, 20, 27, 19, 30, and 26 have Polsby-Popper values of 0.8, 0.19, .21, .22, .22, and .32, respectively. For comparison, the 10 most compact Ohio Senate districts, based on this measure, all have values exceeding .27, and all Ohio Senate districts range from .08 to .66. The representatives of these districts have all contributed to our water being contaminated, our air being toxic, and our jobs being dangerous, because they have all blocked climate action. They have halted wind and solar development, increased fossil fuel extraction, increased utility rates, forced communities to build new construction with dangerous gas lines, deregulated all polluting industries, and made voting a lot harder for people who might take issue with their leaders taking $60 million in bribes to allow corporations to continue heating the earth for profit. The following are bills and laws they supported. In the 133rd General Assembly, HB 6, in a June 2019 letter to the Ohio Senate Energy and Utilities Committee, Andrea Chu, regional organizer with Food and Water Watch, wrote, "I urge you to oppose House Bill 6. As it stands now, it is a heinous piece of legislation that moves Ohio into the past rather than the future. While other states like Illinois are embracing renewables, Ohio is being peddled a coal and nuclear bailout bill poised as a clean energy bill. HB 6 eliminated Ohio's standards for clean energy and efficiency that Chu described as having, quote, saved Ohioans millions of dollars on energy, reduced energy waste and carbon emissions, and provided many green jobs across the state. HB 798 would have delayed HB 6 provisions, but wouldn't have repealed HB 6. This doesn't fix any of the problems caused by HB 6. The only way to do that is to repeal HB 6. HB 680, at least as initially conceived, would have made it more inconvenient, more confusing, and more expensive to vote. SB 1 would have required that agencies reduce the regulations in the Ohio Administrative Code, which includes environmental regulation, by 30%. We believe that forcing government to eliminate 30% of governing hurts Ohioans. SB 234 would probably have ended wind energy development in Ohio by giving townships the power to prohibit wind farms. In the 134th General Assembly, HB 201 is a ban on municipal natural gas bans. It's terrible that Ohioans are being forced to continue using a fossil fuel that is making them ill and making their houses and buildings susceptible to fires. SB 52 would probably end wind and solar development in Ohio by giving local governments the power to prohibit new solar and wind projects. Yeah. No such power exists for fossil fuel projects. Just including the legislators representing the 12 districts I identified as non-compact, yes voters and sponsors on these bills include Larry Householder, Ron Hood, Dick Stein, James Hoops, Darrell Kick, Brian Stewart, Kevin Miller, Shane Wilkin, Teresa Gavarone, Tim Schaefer, Frank Hoagland, Dave Burke, Christina Rogner, and Andrew Brenner. Redistricting, if abused, threatens to destroy the foundation of democracy, the power of the people to choose their leaders and advance their principles. Can the people choose leaders who are able to put those principles into action? It depends on it depends on whether those leaders can govern based on those principles. It depends on to whom those leaders will listen, a powerful donor class or the people. We are faced with a climate emergency that we must act on today. But instead of adopting this mantle, our leaders are choosing to take actions with lifelong negative consequences for us all. Why? How can we ensure that the people's voice can echo through the halls of power? How can we ensure that when the people send leaders to Columbus to fight for them, these leaders don't fight for donors and extremists instead? How can we ensure that when the people send leaders to Columbus to deliver justice, to keep fossil fuels in the ground, to end lead pollution, to hold corporations accountable for violations of our ecological rights, to hold police accountable for brutality against black people, to protect workers' rights, to give land back to indigenous earth protectors, to end utility shutoffs, to stop evictions, to house the unhoused, to guarantee free health care to every resident, to create hundreds of thousands of jobs and heal the planet, and to protect our vote. Those are right to vote. Those leaders don't build walls blocking every path to justice instead. We think this commission, starting today, can lay the groundwork for achieving these goals. This is the last paragraph, excuse me. They should follow the new constitutional requirements without any intent to retain or gain partisan advantage. They should make districts a lot more compact than they are in the current map. They should draw maps in such a way that the statewide preferences for political parties of Ohio voters should be fully apparent from who occupies the Ohio State House. They should draw maps in such a way that elections for General Assembly seats can be competitive once again. Voters, not First Energy, and not legislators who don't care what Ohioans think, need to be in charge of Ohio, so they can set a course for a future of justice and peace. Thank you.
Michael Abrams.